Last week's message got me thinking about David. And David, I sort of put in the same category as Peter, that he's kind of a kind of a mess when you look at David, right? He's kind of an easy target to pick out some things, and we can be critical of David, but at the same time, he was called a man after God's own heart, right? And David was not perfect. How many of you know that, right? Gives me hope. Looking at Peter and David, but David really messed up. Really, David in the Bible messed up. He did some bad things, right? He did some things that, by today's standards, in our nation, he could be put to death in some states. He would be in prison, right? David had somebody murdered. Somebody murdered. A man after God's own heart was a murderer, right? He murdered. He was an adulterer. He schemed, he planned his sin. He planned it out. It didn't just happen. He planned it out. And I heard someone once describe what he did with Bathsheba as rape. And at first I thought, no, it wasn't rape. It was. It was. He forced himself on this married woman. But yet, he's a man after God's own heart. Right? When he's referenced in Acts, he's not referenced as a murderer, an adulterer. No, he's a man after God's own heart. I think we need to look at what made David special in God's eyes and ask ourselves, is that reflected in our own lives? Are we sort of aspiring to the same kind of thing in our lives? So I want to look at 1 Samuel. And it sounds like a lot of scripture, but we're going to look at 1 Samuel 26, and I'm going to maybe summarize some of this for you so we can get to the point of the story. 1 Samuel chapter 26, starting verse 1, it says, "Now the Ziphites came to Saul at Gibeah, saying, 'Is David not hiding in the hill of Heklah, opposite Jeshimon?' Then Saul arose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him, to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph." That's a bad situation, right? Saul's after one guy, so he gets 3,000 men to go get David. That's a stressful situation, right? And I know that a lot of us are in stressful situations. We do things, and then something just happens, and we find ourselves in a very stressful situation. David was about to get into a very stressful situation where his life was at stake, and I want to see how he reacts, right? Clearly, Saul is overreacting because he's so threatened by David. He knows that David should be king and that the people love David, so the only thought is to destroy him. So verse 3 and 4 says, "Saul encamped in the hill of Heklah, which is opposite Jeshimon by the road, but David stayed in the wilderness. And he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. David therefore sent out spies and understood that Saul had indeed come." I like the fact that David didn't just react, right? He could have run, he could have stood his ground and done battle with him, but instead he takes a moment, he says, "Let me see what's going on. Let me get some intel in the situation before I act." And I think that is something that a lot of people don't do, right? A situation happens, we don't stop, we don't assess the situation, we just react, right? How many times does that happen where somebody gets in your face, right? You don't deserve it. I'm not going to stand for this, and you just react, right? And before you know it, all this garbage is spewing out of your mouth that you can't take back. Right? But he doesn't do that. He assesses the situation. He doesn't act rashly. There's a lesson in that in and of itself, is that he's going to see what's going on, and he goes to see what's happening at Saul's camp. So David arose, came to the place where Saul had encamped, and David saw the place where Saul lay. And Abner, the son of Ner, the commander of his army, of Saul's army. Now Saul lay within the camp with all the people encamped around him. David answered and said to Ahimelech the Hittite and to Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, brother of Joab, saying, "Who will go down with me to Saul in the camp?" And Abishai said, "I will go down with you." And I applaud this guy for his loyalty and his faithfulness to David. And we'll see, I think his loyalty and his faithfulness was a little misplaced at a point, right? But he's faithful to David and he's quick to volunteer. And I always appreciate that when I have a situation in my family, at church, at work, or something like that. I have a situation, I present it, and a hand goes up, right? I'll help you with that. I'll help you with that. I think we need to be like that too, is be quick to help with situations. You know, when there's something going on, at work we call it a fumble, right? So you guys watch football, right? And there's a fumble. What happens? Everybody jumps on it, right? They're scrambling. They can't get to it fast enough. Sometimes we got to be like that. We got to see a situation. We got to grab it like a fumbling football and get on there and have urgency to do it. And so this guy, I applaud him for that because he does that. It says, "So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and there Saul lay sleeping within the camp, with his spear stuck in the ground by his head, and Abner and the people lay all around him." Think about that for a minute. Don't just read the Bible, but think about the situation and look at it. David and this guy just walked into a camp, 3,000 men, and the king, and he walks right into his tent. You think God's hand was on that situation? It clearly was, right? That's a miracle. That's amazing. How did this guy ever? There had to be people watching. There had to be people that were in charge of making sure no one got to the camp. David just walks right in. When God's hand is on you in situations, you're anointed. You walk into dangerous situations and nothing's happening to you. You're just able to look around and see what's going on and see clearly. David didn't have an agenda here. I don't think he had an agenda. I don't think he had his own plan. He was just totally open and willing to serve God in any way he could and see how God works. It says, "Then Abishai said to David, 'God has delivered your enemy into your hand this day. Now therefore, please let me strike him at once with a spear, right to the earth, and I will not have to strike him a second time.'" A little arrogance there, huh? Right? And there's people that will offer advice in a situation. And it may even sound like good advice. And I don't think this was a bad guy. I don't think he didn't serve the Lord. He's serving David. But he's offering bad advice right here. And David, because he's in tune with God, recognizes right away that it's not the right thing to do. But he could have, right? You think about that situation. He could have, right then and there, killed Saul. What would have happened? He would have been king. The people loved David. And the ones that didn't say they loved him were afraid of Saul, right? But the people did love David, and he was anointed, and David knew he was going to be king. He could have taken matters into his own hand right there, and what would have happened? He would have become king. He would have been successful right at that moment, right? And I heard a pastor recently talk about this, the word success, right? And he says, look up the word success in your Bible. And tell me how many times it's in the Bible. You know how many times the word success is in the Bible? 0 times. It's not in there, right? But we strive for success in our lives. We strive. What does success really look like? We strive for it sometimes. Be honest, right? We strive for it. What's better than having an apartment? Or having a house? What's better than that? A bigger house. What's better than the car you have? Another car, right? And we sort of look at success because the world tells us. Watch TV. Big, beautiful cars and houses and all these things that we have to have. And that's what success is. You get a job, you get a great job. Well, then you get promoted, right? You strive to do this and this and this. And that's what the world tells us that success is. David had everything right there. All he had to say is, yeah, go ahead and do it. He didn't have to do it himself. He just had to give the okay to do it. He'd have been king. He probably, those 3,000 men would have woke up, they probably wouldn't have done anything to him. I really don't think. I think they would have said, all right, we got a new king. And they would have went with him. But he doesn't choose to do that. And I want to look at his logic a little bit. Verse 9 says, David says to Abishai, do not destroy him. For who can stretch out his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? He still recognizes that Saul is God's anointed. All authority comes from God, right? All authority. Good, bad, ugly, crazy, it don't matter. All authority comes from God, and he sees that. So I can't do this thing. David said, furthermore, as the Lord lives, the Lord shall strike him, or his day shall come to die, and he shall go out to battle and perish. It's not up to me to kill people. It's not up to me to make a decision about people, whether people live or die. That's in God's hands. Either he's going to live out his whole life and die, or he'll die in battle. It's not really up to us to choose for someone's life to end or to continue. I know that I've always believed, saved or not, that abortion is wrong. I've always had that conviction. And but when I first got saved, I really did not see an issue with the death penalty. And I don't know where everybody falls on this. It really doesn't matter at this moment. But I really didn't see an issue with it. Somebody takes a life, but they don't deserve to live. Is what my thought was. And then as I continued to grow, I thought, that's wrong. Death, that's wrong. Jesus died on a cross for murderers, for the people that put him on the cross. Did they deserve death? No. It's not up to us. The death penalty is wrong, and it's not for us to choose. And David even recognizes it in the situation. Did Saul deserve to die? I guess that's an opinion, right? I think he did. He was a bad guy, right? But through this whole thing, how many times did these situations happen, right? Saul's in the cave doing his business one day, right? And Saul sneaks up on him and could have killed him right there. But he didn't, right? All these times, do you think that the Lord was working on Saul too? Like the story's about David, but do you think he was working on Saul? How many times has God covered my sin and say, hey, repent, come back? You know, it's the love of God that brings us to repentance. And I believe that God was working on Saul in these situations. If David had struck him dead, that's going against God's plan. So David took the spear and the jug of water by Saul's head, and they got away, and no man saw or knew it or awoke. For they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord had fallen on them. Right? There it is, God's hand in the situation. And I believe David had to know that when he was walking in there. But David went over to the other side, and he stood on the top of a hill far off, a great distance being between them. David called out to the people and to Abner, the son of Ner, saying, "Do you not answer, Abner?" Then Abner answered and said, "Who are you?" calling out to the king. So he yells to him, and then he chastises him because he didn't do his job, right? He wasn't faithful. He's the one that's supposed to be in charge of the king. He let somebody sneak in that could have killed him, and he steals the jug and the spear to show that he could have killed him. And then verse 17 says, Saul knew David's voice, and he said, "Is that your voice, my son David?" David said, "It is my voice, my Lord, O king." Still giving him honor. He says, "Why does my Lord thus pursue his servant? For what have I done, or what evil is in my hand?" You see, if we continue reading down, I won't read the whole thing. It's love in a situation, right, that changed the situation. It wasn't violence. It wasn't a hunger for success. It wasn't a, God has a plan for me, so I'm going to work it out. God said, I'm going to be king, so I'm going to go get it. I'm going to go take it. No, love. The whole situation is what changes Saul's mind. Saul was crazy. Saul had a bad temper. He was a bad dude. He really struggled with pride and arrogance and all these kind of things. And how do you think he would react if David just challenged him? Well, that's he works on that turf. He can battle. He can do battle with him. But when it comes to love, that disarms people. You think about dealing with really angry people who love to yell and swear. You know any of those people? Those situations? I met a lot of those at Stop and Shop. Right? Customers that are upset about things because the sign said this, but the price rang up like this, right? So now I'm the enemy number one. So I'm the manager. So I get called down, and all they want to do is yell at me and tell me how I'm ripping people off, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and they're angry. And if I responded and say, hey, dummy, no, that sign goes with this item up here, and you're wrong, right? How do you think they'd respond? It'd be a sparring back and forth. And I would say that, you know that saying, like, the customer's always right? About 80% of the time, they're wrong. They're wrong, because they don't pay attention, because people are shopping quick, right? They're running through, they're grabbing this, they're doing that. Somebody set the wrong can of peas in front of this, and they picked that up. But I knew that situations would only be solved by love. So this is me going to the service desk. right? Big smile on my face. Can I help you today? Shake their hand if they would take my hand, right? They try to disarm the situation with love. They can't be mad at you for very long, right? They can't. It's love changes the situation. Every situation. Love never fails. It never, ever fails. When you are administering discipline, when you are correcting somebody, when you are trying to help somebody, right? When you're talking about somebody sometimes, right? If your motivation is anything other than love, you're taking that situation and making it worse. You are. You discipline your kids. If you're not doing it in love, it's harmful. It's not going to help them. You're frustrated, that's not the time to discipline your kids. Right? Right? I've been guilty of that many, many times out of frustration. But it doesn't really help. It doesn't really help. Let love be your motivation in all these situations. It will never go bad. And this is just another example. I believe that God was working on Saul through this. He knew he had a faithful servant, David, that he could entrust to put in these situations, and David wasn't going to mess up. Remember, a man after God's own heart, right? Did David mess up in a lot of other things? Yeah, but he truly, at his core, wanted to do God's will. He truly wanted that more than he wanted his own will. He messed up along the way many times. But verse 23, David gives the spear back in the jug of water. Verse 23 says, "May the Lord repay every man for his righteousness and his faithfulness. For the Lord delivered you into my hand today, but I would not stretch out my hand against the Lord's anointed. May the Lord repay every man for righteousness and faithfulness." If you had to define what success looks like as a Christian, it's being faithful. Right? It's having God's righteousness. That's what success is being faithful in every situation. That's what I believe that God admired about David. That's what he could count on, was faithfulness. I can put you in any situation. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about it. I trust your faithfulness. Are we faithful people? Right? We're people of faith, right? Faithfulness is what? Just full of faith, right? We have to be faithful people in situations and watch how God will put his hand on our situation and help us walk through it. So when there's a situation where we can get a quick win, right, and be successful, but it's not right in God's eyes, should you do it? Should you do it? No. Be faithful in the little things. God will entrust you with more. God showed me that. Somebody one time prophesied over Beth and I and said that we're going to be charged with a lot of money. We're like, yeah. Right? And then the tests started coming, right? I mean, right there, I went to the bank one time, and I don't know if I took a withdrawal or cashed a check or something, and it was like $500 more in there. And honestly, this is terrible. I never look at the money. I just trust that it's right. Sometimes I don't even wait until the next day. If it's wrong, there's nothing I can do. And I was pulling out of the drive-thru at the Aggie Bank. Remember that? Anybody remember the Aggie Bank? But I was pulling out, and I looked, and I just quick fanned it, and I saw there's a lot more money in there than there should be. And I had a choice to make right there. I could take it. What are they going to do? I probably wouldn't have to give it back, or I could back up. And I backed up, and it was like one test after another. He said, "Are you going to be faithful with money?" And by the way, God never said that we were going to have a lot of money. He said we're going to be in charge of a lot of money, right? So I misunderstood that the first time. I thought we're going to have a lot of money, right? But he didn't say that. He said we'll be in charge of a lot of money. And we've got to be faithful in all these things, even the minor things, the little things. I charge off my miles, right? I get money back on my taxes for my miles. I could lie on that. No one would ever know. But God would know. He'd say, you're not being faithful because your own gain, because you want success, you want a little more money, you want this, you want that. But at the end of the day, it's not success. It's not, because it's not faithful in God's eyes, and that's not. I want to be Larry, a man after God's own heart. That's what I want, right? Not any title, not anything else. It's just live this very, very short life that we have. Very, very short amount of time. Compared to eternity, it's nothing. It's not even a snap. It's a vapor. It's there and it's gone, right? I want to be known as faithful through that. That's a success in God's eyes. And you see that
that just led to more things. In verse 24 it says, "Indeed, as your life was valued much this day in my eyes, let my life be valued much in the eyes of the Lord." Still acknowledging God, still has his priorities right. It's about God. "And let him deliver me out of all tribulation." We're talking about what I said for praise and worship, seeing the lightning bolt, and seeing God come down and change the situation, right? Sometimes our situation has to blow up too before it can be fixed, right? I mean, there's beautiful buildings that get into disrepair, and sometimes they just need to be knocked down and start over, right? Let God get in there, but you have to be faithful and watch how God will deliver you out of tribulation. I want to look at this psalm, and I was just reading it this morning. Psalm 37. It says, "Do not fret because of evildoers, nor be envious of the workers of iniquity, for they shall be cut down like grass and wither as the green herb." Right? I think these sometimes we look at people who have a lot. They're not Christians, right? They're not even good people. They have a ton of money. They have great success, and we can look at them and we can be envious of them. We can, right? Be honest. You can look and say, "Wow, I wish I had money." How many of you honestly believe that if you had a little more money, that it would help your situation? I believe that. I believe that. Nobody likes to worry about their mortgage. Be honest, right? But as soon as we get envious of those situations and we say, "That's success," then we're valuing that more than we value what God has given us. And it says they'll be cut down like grass and wither as the green herb. That's our life. That's what he's talking about, is life. Life goes by. They're so successful. They had this and that. And at the end of the day, they have nothing. They have nothing. Trust in the Lord. Do good. Dwell in the land and feed on his faithfulness. That's what we're called to do. Dwell in the land. Feed on his faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord. He shall give you the desires of your heart. So he'll give you what you need. You're trusting in God. You're dwelling in the land. You're spending time with the Lord. Is our desire really money? It's to be in his presence. It's to have joy. It's to have peace. It's to have those things. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. All the things that have value. All the things that are worth things. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for it. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings wicked schemes to pass. Cease from anger, forsake wrath. Do not fret. Right? Getting out of the way. Letting God come down and fix your situation. Stop worrying. Stop fretting. It only causes harm. How many of you have been in God's way in a situation? I have. I could be at this moment. I don't know. But I know that I'm not supposed to worry about it. I know that I'm supposed to trust in him. Evildoers, they're cut off. But those who wait on the Lord shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall be no more. That's our life. That's how it describes it. Just a little while. Those who wait on the Lord shall inherit the earth. Do you know that? We get to live on the earth, right? This new earth, not this polluted planet that we live on, but this new earth. The wicked shall be no more. So why would we ever envy them? The meek shall inherit the earth and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. It sort of puts everything into priority to say, hey, this is what it's all about. It's not what the world says is success. It's about faithfulness. The armor of God, right? Protects us. That shield of faith, right? Quenches the fiery darts of the enemy. How important that is to have that faith to protect us. And there's fiery darts, right? You're doing things for the Lord, and you get darts. Guess what? If you're sitting on your butt doing nothing, you still get fiery darts. Because the devil hates you. He hates you anyways, whether you're doing anything or not. He just wants to see you destroyed. So we have to have that shield of faith. That's what success is for God's people, is faithfulness. And be like God be like David when it comes to faithfulness. Put that above everything else, the success. It may even look like a step backwards sometimes to be faithful in God's eyes. But you want to be a man after God's own heart, a woman after God's own heart. Value that more than anything. Our life is here, and then it's gone, and then we have eternity. And a lot of what we do here depends on what eternity looks like for us. Amen? Amen. we're gonna have communion. So if I could have